since we are within the SAIMA group, and this is the session number 27, Architecting the Success, Unlocking Business Value Through Adoption. Very important topic and very interesting topic about the adoption, which I hope everyone which joined this Saturday and maybe watching this recording would be very pleasant to know more about. I'm going to do very short introduction. What do we do? Why we are called SAIMA, and what's our goal? So we are basically supporting each other in preparing the technical architect certification, the very pinnacle of all Salesforce certifications, CTA. So we're creating a lot of content to prepare for that certification. We are not affiliated with Salesforce. That's the only disclaimer I really have to voice over. And one important message I have to do, our housekeeping rule is simple. If you have a question, post it in chat. I'm going to be monitoring this chat as a host of this session. And yeah, if you have a question, once again, type it. Don't say it in chat. Please mute yourself. And most important one, if you're interested in presenting yourself or you want to make an adjustment, feel free to reach out to myself or any other SAIMA organizer you can find on LinkedIn, any other social network. We would be happy to basically take any feedback, or even better if you want to present something. So without further ado, I think I'm going to move myself outside of this hosting position towards Christian, our dear lecturer on the topic of adoption. So I'm going to stop sharing and allow you to. Yeah.
All right. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Fantastic. Well, thank you, George. Thank you so much for having me and for that introduction. And hey, everyone. Let me briefly introduce myself and why I think this topic is really important for architects. But you be the judge of that in this session. So my name is Christian. I've been in the ecosystem for about 10 years, both client side and in consulting. And a few years ago, I started writing a non-technical book about how to approach Salesforce programs, because I thought that was kind of missing a common framework and comparisons of different things to consider when setting up programs. And as that book was launching, I reflected a lot on the biggest challenges I saw holding companies back from really maximizing this elusive value from their programs. And I believe something is broken in how we have been, as an ecosystem, been approaching Salesforce implementations and programs. Of course, not yourselves, but broadly speaking, the ultimate predictor of success in a program isn't about the sophistication of a solution or elegant architecture diagrams or number of certifications. Those things are important too, and experience, but it's really about adoption, plain and simple. Intuitively, even the best solutions won't deliver any results if users aren't embracing them. So that's a bit about what we'll be diving into today. So first, I'll share some justification for why you should care about adoption as an architect. Then we'll look at what is the problem for big companies related to adoption. We'll explore what are some of the characteristics of great adoption measurements. And then lastly, I will show you a quick preview of GoElephant, the adoption app for Salesforce. So why should you care about adoption? There are many angles to this, so let's have a look at some of them. One is if you are pursuing the CTA certification or working through any of those certifications for your own learning, program governance is part of that study curriculum. Change management and adoption is part of the framework proposed by Salesforce. This is taken from the curriculum for the development lifecycle and deployment designer, as it was called when I took that. Of course, as with everything, frameworks are just that. You should always consider the scenario and the context of the program you're in before providing recommendations. Another thing is a core part of the well-architected framework from Salesforce is that a solution should be easy. Easy solutions are engaging, and engaging solutions drive adoption. From a system perspective, user adoption is a crucial component of a healthy system. There's a bit of a circular reference here as some of these concepts impact each other, but it's just to give you some more flavor to why adoption is important and where it fits in the overall system. Some years ago, Salesforce themselves posted a blog diving into why CRM projects fail. They did this to help companies that were on the journey to be able to prevent them. So they also provided some guidance on how to fix them. And interestingly, lack of focus on people and lacking adoption are listed as two of the most important common reasons why projects fail. And where you should look if a program is in trouble. Then the management consulting company McKinsey made a study where they broke down transformation program success rates across close to 1,000 companies that participated in the study. And they found that only 1 in 8 of these programs sustained their goals after 3 years. So we can say the obvious, which is that in CRM transformation programs like Salesforce programs, you really require sustained attention to adoption to achieve the goals that you're looking for. So let's summarize. Why should you care about adoption as an architect? Well, one, if you're pursuing the CTA, program governance is part of the curriculum. Adoption is part of the well-architected framework, and it's critical for system health. Attention to adoption is required to achieve program goals, and it's a leading indicator of business performance. If nobody's logging in, nobody's using the solution to perform work, and or if they hated the system, you'll never get the value from your Salesforce investments. All right, so what's a problem? What's a problem for companies on their Salesforce journey? So I think in all my years in the ecosystem, the ultimate predictor of program success, as we talked about, isn't how fancy a solution is. It's really about how do you buy, build, and deploy this new tech, whether it's a new project on an existing org, or if it's a continuous improvement cycle that you're on. Adoption speed varies across an organization. So what can we do about that? I think we need to further embrace some principles. One is product management as a discipline, which basically means we should consider our users as the customers of our solutions, meaning the Salesforce applications we ask them to do their work in, and give them a voice and get feedback. That is so critical. Second, that we prioritize change management. You need to make it go hand in hand with deploying new tech. And lastly, be vigilant about being data-driven, about how you track adoption, just the same as we do in many other business areas. So what's the tricky bit, at least from my experience, is how do you accurately and consistently measure user adoption across a big organization? We're not talking about small companies with 5 people. You talk at the coffee machine there and see how is adoption going. But if you are several hundreds or thousands of users in an org, it's really difficult to get a bearing on how adoption is going. So adoption becomes the elephant in the room in those programs. So let's dive in to how to measure user adoption. So your adoption measurements should give you tangible insights. However you do it, you should be looking for ways to be able to answer questions such as, how is my program doing, based on facts and quantitative data. You should be able to say what teams are struggling and need more support. How does my organization feel about our CRM? Do they love it? Are they indifferent? Do they not care? Are they not engaging? If you had these answers, it would make your efforts to drive adoption and improve it 10 times more targeted and impactful. And they would also make your conversations with different stakeholders much more meaningful. So lastly, and this has been a lot quicker than in my pre-run, so bear with me, we'll have plenty of time for Q&A. That's also the fun part. I'll give you a preview of GoElephant, the adoption app for Salesforce. So what GoElephant does is it looks at the 3 elements of adoption with the aim of tracking adoption holistically. So it looks at logins. Is a user logging in? It's pretty basic, foundational, but a prerequisite for anything else that is to happen. Then usage is a user using Salesforce to perform work. And lastly, and critically, sentiment. How does a user feel about Salesforce and the application they're using? GoElephant's algorithm then rolls up the adoption score through the organization and provides a simple, accurate adoption score. So you can say, beyond what is the next release in the pipeline, you can say, how is my program doing from an adoption perspective? Sentiment is based on a quick in-app survey. So it makes for a quick temperature check in the context of the work the user is doing. GoElephant app users, that could be you, a change manager or product owner, can see the feedback directly in Salesforce and act on it. It could be anything from, where are my converted leads? A new user may say, who is unfamiliar with lead conversion. Or it could be, I need more training. Anything is better than not knowing this if you're at a group level and you're trying to understand what is going on in my program from a user perspective. The app navigation is designed to be intuitive and easy to use. There are 2 levels of the insights. One is org level to see the overall state of adoption across these 3 elements, along with the overall aggregated adoption score. And then the other level is at team or row level, which is meant to help you focus your efforts to improve adoption. And this is an example of the org adoption page, where you can see and show the impact of the adoption driving activities, because that is ultimately what we're hoping to do. We are doing all these things, building awesome solutions, improvements, enhancements. We should be able to see what is the impact of those things on adoption. And that, George, in just 20 minutes, leaving plenty of time for Q&A, is my input on how to unlock value through improved adoption.
All right. Thank you. That's actually very fast for a Saturday session. So I don't see any questions in chat. So if you have one, just go ahead and post it. But I think the big one, well, not to be funny, but elephant in the room is what should we as architects do at every stage of a project? Because I think thinking about the adoption as early as a design phase is generally a good approach. But do you have any, maybe best practices, maybe advices for an architect on that area?
Yeah, and I think that's a key question, right? Because if before you go live, there's nothing really to measure, right? There is the concept of change readiness assessments, which should be done to see. One thing is whoever came up with the idea that we should do Salesforce, great idea. But what does the business, the users that are going to be the users of the solution, how do they feel about it? Are they excited about it? Are they not? If they are, awesome. Then we can reinforce it through communications and so on. If there is more upfront resistance before even go live, then there is more work to be done to really understand their challenges. And you should really have a good answer to the question, what's in it for me? Like, why should I care as a user? How is Salesforce going to help me do better in my work? Those are some of the key pillars of change management. So quite a lot of work should be done before go live. Doing it just a couple of weeks before training and right after go live, that's really putting it all on a risky path. So that's sort of explaining the greenfield, or if it's a new segment of users who haven't used Salesforce before, those are the things you'd consider. But then really, that's typically only the first 6 months or a year, depending how long the development phase is, of the 5, 10, 15 years that the company will be using Salesforce. So that's where the adoption tracking really comes in, to see after go live, how are we tracking in terms of adoption.
Right, I guess that's answered the question, and you also covered the greenfield, brownfield aspect, which you has asked. There is another question from Paul. What is the best system to architect into an implementation to measure adoption? Really measure it. That was the question.
Yep. Cool. So I'm actually kind of system agnostic as a person. I think it's a great question. I think it's more about what should you be able to answer with whatever tool you choose, right? And I'm big on feedback, and you should get feedback the way that is suitable for your organization. So let's say if it's this SMB with 5 users, don't go out and invest in a big tool, right? Just talk to people. Say maybe if you're 20 or 50 users, just talk to people. It's much easier, right? If you are, let's say, a couple hundred or 1,000 users, that becomes difficult at scale, right? That's where you need to look at, okay, what's a good way to get feedback? You can use SurveyMonkey. There's 1,000 off-platform survey tools you can use. But what I think, and that's also the idea, I'm not here to pitch GoElephant as such, right? But we thought, okay, what if we can make it all on the platform and combine feedback with the other Salesforce data that's already there, login and usage data, and have it all there. That's at least the idea. But there's also Salesforce Labs adoption dashboards. If you're a smaller company, a smaller program, you just need to see, okay, are people logging in? If that's what you care about, or for local team managers, that's also a fine tool to see, right? Because they can also just talk to people. But if you're a group level, hundreds or thousands of users, you probably need a tool for getting that feedback. Hope that that helps, Paul. I'd love to hear your experience too. Primarily opinion gathering. Good question. I'd say yes, because that can be a clue, right? And even if they are not right in their opinion. Let's say they have feedback on something and that is subjective. That is still the lens they have about using Salesforce. So if you get, let's say, constructive or negative feedback, then that's a clue that you could go and have a conversation with that user and find out what's actually behind it. And it may be that they didn't know that it actually worked a different way or something. And then that's an opportunity for training, and you can improve that user's adoption, so to say.
There is another question from Juan. So do you recommend doing a baseline sentiment measurement before launching the project?
Yeah, absolutely. And yeah, it doesn't matter what we call this, right? Whether it's change readiness assessment, which also covers a few other bits than sentiment, but yeah, 100% all for it. And I think the bigger and more risky or mission critical the project is, the more you should be doing both before and after from a change management and adoption perspective. Excellent question. Yeah.
Right. I don't think we have any other questions, so feel free to post them in chat if you still have some.
Is there a prize for the quickest SAIMA presentation or
I would need to
penalty?
check. I would need to check with other SAIMA organizers on that.
Yeah.
And yeah. All right. So I guess that would be it for the adoption session. I really hope that we can really measure your adoption by having more SAIMA speakers for our next sessions and also having your feedback. I really have to thank you, Christian, for doing that presentation. It was very helpful for us all to grow. I'm also helping Neha, who's organized this session from our SAIMA group. And recording of this session would be available very soon on our YouTube channel. So if you're watching the recording, then once again, don't hesitate to ask any type of question in comments or contact us directly and, provide the feedback. Thank you all for being here. And once again, thank you, Christian.
Thank you all. Thank you, George. And awesome session. Thank you so much.
Thank you all. Bye.